All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're not just talking about security in theory. We are stepping right into the mindset of a security professional who's on a mission, and that mission is the security survey. This is not about checklists, trust me. It's about learning to see a building, not for what it is, but for what it could be to an attacker.
And that right there, that gets us to our first rule. Real-world security isn't always about that high-tech fortress you see at the front door. Nope. It's about finding the forgotten weaknesses, the simple oversights. It's about finding that brick on the roof before somebody else does. So, what even is a security survey? Well, it's definitely not just a casual walkthrough. You have to think of it as an active, on-site intelligence mission. Seriously, you're like an operative. Your job is to gather the critical data that's going to feed the entire security strategy for a location. Okay, so every good mission needs a clear set of objectives, right? Before we even start thinking about what to look for, we have to define what we're actually trying to accomplish with all this data we're about to collect.
So here they are, the big three. First, you've got to understand what you're protecting and why it's so valuable. Then, you put on your vulnerability hunter hat and you start searching for cracks in the armor. And finally, you have to figure out if the security rules that look great on paper actually hold up in the real world.
Now, you might be thinking the first step is to jump in your car and drive to the site. But hold on. A real pro starts the mission long before that. This first phase, it's all about gathering intelligence, and it all happens right from your desk.
This is a classic exam tip for security professionals, and it is absolutely vital. The best, most effective surveys are always built on a solid foundation of research. Just walking in blind is a total rookie mistake. It wastes time, and you miss so much important context.
So what kind of intel are we digging for? Well, you start broad, with the outside world. What do the local crime stats tell you about common threats in the area? Then you zoom in. Site plans and floor plans give you the lay of the land. And operational logs? Oh, they are a goldmine. They tell you what's already gone wrong. And those existing procedures? They show you what's supposed to be happening, which you can then compare to what is actually happening.
All right, pre-mission briefing is complete. Now we go on site. And we don't just wander around aimlessly. We have a strategy, a plan of attack designed to mimic the exact path an adversary would take. It's called the outside-in approach.
And this just lays out the path perfectly. You start at the very edge of the property, the fence line, and you methodically work your way inward, layer by layer, just like an attacker would. From the perimeter, to the parking lot, to the building's doors and windows, then you move through the hallways all the way to the crown jewels, the most critical assets at the very core. This approach makes sure nothing gets missed.
But here's the thing, as you're moving through all these layers, it is so tempting to just write down what you see. But what you see can be deceiving. To get real, credible intelligence, you can't just rely on one source of information. You have to triangulate it. And here are the 3 points of that triangle. Observation is the easy part. I see a camera on the wall. Okay, great. But that's not enough. Verification is the next critical step. Is that camera actually turned on? Is it recording? Is the picture any good? And then, finally, the one that so many people miss, interviewing. Just asking people what really goes on around here.
And this leads to one of my favorite concepts, the Janitor Rule. Look, the security manager is going to tell you the official policy, but the maintenance and cleaning staff, they're the ones who will tell you about the side door that everyone props open for a smoke break because the lock's been busted for 6 months. They have the ground truth.
And hey, here's another real-world gem for you, smokers intel. The folks you gather outside that back door, they see everything. They know the comings and goings, they know the patterns, and they definitely notice when things are out of the ordinary. A casual chat with them can be worth way more than an hour in some formal meeting.
Your data collection is not done until you've seen the place in a completely different light. And I mean that literally. A building at night is a totally different animal. Lights that seemed fine during the day create these deep, dark shadows. Doors that were busy all day are now completely deserted. The night walk isn't optional. It is absolutely essential.
So you've gathered all this intel. You've got a notebook full of vulnerabilities, broken locks, dark corners, the whole shebang. Now comes the most important part of this whole process, that intellectual leap from just finding problems to defining smart solutions.
This is the trap so many people fall into. The knee-jerk reaction is to solve every single problem by just throwing more technology at it. Broken lock? Let's buy a bigger lock. Dark parking lot? Let's buy more lights. But a true security expert, they think differently.
And this slide, wow, this slide really nails the difference. A bad requirement specifies the gear. Install a biometric reader. But a good, functional requirement defines the goal. The system must restrict access. Do you see the difference? The first one locks you into a single, probably expensive solution. The second one gives you options.
And this, right here, is why it matters so much. When you focus on the goal, you might find you can achieve it in a bunch of different ways. Maybe a simple keypad lock meets the requirement just as well as a fancy biometric reader, but at 1/10 of the cost. Defining the function, not the hardware, is the absolute key to smart, flexible, and budget-friendly security design.
Okay, your mission is almost complete. You've done the research, you've walked the site, you've defined the requirements. The very last step is to package all of your intelligence in a way that actually convinces the decision makers to take action. A professional report really has 3 key parts. You've got the executive summary, and that's for the people who sign the checks. Then you have the detailed findings, with lots of photos as evidence for everything you're claiming. And finally, a super clear, prioritized list of recommendations, so they know exactly what to fix first.
And let me just tell you, do not sleep on that executive summary. You could conduct the most brilliant survey in history, find a million problems, but if you can't summarize the key risks and the return on investment on a single page, your report is probably just going to sit on a shelf gathering dust. This summary is where your findings turn into action.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Thinking like a security expert isn't just about spotting the broken camera or finding the unlocked door. It's about learning to question everything, especially the things that everyone else just takes for granted. Because more often than not, the biggest vulnerability is the one you never even thought to look for.